for Normative Ethical Theory. Professor Kamil Ahsan.
Thank you everyone for listening to so interesting or boring session. I think it's interesting. As you can see, the title is at this version of biocentric consequentialism and a strong contender for normative ethical theory. This article is devoted to a critical pursuit of Robin Atfield's version of biocentric consequentialism. And here, what I will take into consideration is an exchange between Robin Atfield and Alan Carter. And finally, my job will be to defend Robin's position. So let's start. What is biocentric consequentialism? This variety of consequentialism actually focuses on living creatures, and it focuses on the good of their own, and it thinks that they have moral standing accordingly, and that flourishing or attaining their good is intrinsically valuable. Since it is a consequentialist view, that's why this theory holds that the morality of an action or policy depends on its contribution to the fulfillment of the capacity to flourish of all affected creatures. That means all living creatures, both human and non-human. Okay, I'm not going through this part because we know it is Robin's version of biocentric consequentialism. That means consequence is in the center of moral consideration. Foreseeable consequence of human action makes an action ethically acceptable if it is positive. And biocentric means the area of this consideration is living entity. So human and non-human. These are the words where Robin has developed his biocentric consequentialism. Okay, let us start with the exchange between Alan Carter and Robin. What happens is that Alan Carter has started with phrasing Robin's work, and he says, it is a normative ethical theory that is innovatory, and it has made some contribution to applied ethics. And also he has said that it is the most impressive environmental ethics developed today in any detail. So this is good what he started with, but he is very serious about the limitation of Robin's view. So number one is minimax implication that has actually terminated from Robin's thought. What is that? Robin says, moral worth of an action depends on foreseeable consequences of agents, and it depends on the good of creatures. So, theoretically speaking, all the lives, irrespective of human and non-human, should get equal priority when we make an ethical decision. But Carter's criticism of Robin's attitude is that suddenly he has started giving priority on human being compared to non-human animals. And this has actually created a minimax implication. What is that? Through being committed to the view that more good flows from developing everyone's capacities to some degree than from maximally developing the same capacity for the minority at the expense of those of the majority, as has been alleged by Carter, Atfield's theory suggests to bring about the lowest acceptable level for the greatest number of human beings. That means, since human being is more important based on capacities and other interests, so it is ethical, as has been alleged by Carter against Robin, that if we take decision in favor of human being against non-human being, then it is ethically acceptable. But the problem is, minimax implication means when you focuses on human being against the interest of non-human animal, it is a speciesism that Robin is committing in the first place. And when Robin says it is good, that is important, interest or good of living being, that is more important for the moral decisions, then everything including non-living, non-human life should be included in decision. But the problem is, when you make a difference between human being and non-human being, as he has actually mentioned at some point in his theory, then it is acceptable to increase a huge number of human beings, billions of human beings, and that is acceptable. But his criticism is that it creates a repugnant conclusion. As you know that, what is repugnant conclusion? That is an awkward conclusion. If, for example, imagine you have two worlds. In world 1, you have 1 billion people, and they are extremely happy. And in world 2, we have 2 billion people. 1 billion people are equally happy, like the world 1, and another 1 billion people, they are moderately happy. But as consequential as you say, the total happiness, total good between the two possible worlds, push us to practice the transitivity, principle of transitivity. In that case, A is more preferable than B. But intuitively we say, world 1, where 1 billion people is extremely happy, essentially better than world where 2 billions of people are there, and one with extremely happy, other 1 billion moderately happy. But the problem is, if we keep following this process, then we are bound to order our choice by writing that world B is better than world A. In that case, it has an adverse implication for other species of this world. So there is an adverse environmental implication of this particular view, that means biocentric consequentialism, as has been explained by Robin. This is the complaint or criticism of whom? Of Carter's against Robin. Let us go on to the second one. Carter accuses Atfield of incorporating and highlighting the issue of the moral considerability of possible persons along with actual ones. So if world 2 is better than, more preferable than world 1 in terms of total good or total outcomes, then we should consider, we have to accept this verdict given by Robin that moral considerability of possible persons along with actual ones are important. They are same. Now the question is, there is a philosophical problem, non-identity problem that generates here. So this is another objection or criticism of Carter against Atfield. And finally, Carter says Robin's view is a monistic view. Monistic view means it gives emphasis on one value. For example, hedonism. There is an ethical theory and it focuses on happiness, for example. And we have lots of other values, virtues, that we take into consideration when we make decisions in our actual life. But the problem with monism is that it focuses on single value. Now, Carter is complaining against Robin that as a monistic view, Robin's view merits this criticism. Now, our job is to answer this question. Answering the challenge to Robin Atfield's raised by Carter. Challenge number one raised by Carter is that actually Carter got the point wrong. Classification of living creatures is done in terms of their capacity and interest, not in their species membership. Robin has clarified in his replies to Carter that no, it is not species membership that matters. What matters is actually capacities and interests. Robin has taken support from Aristotle, and you know Aristotle has actually explained that what is moral life, that is worth living. So we have to have some capacity at some certain level so that we can make our life morally acceptable. So by following Atfield's view, Aristotle's view, Atfield has managed to answer this. He has not said that we want people, future people, with ever so little happiness or well-being. The threshold is basic needs. So we have some crucial needs and trivial needs. So if the need is fulfilled in terms of, let's say, basic need, then that capacity can help us to lead a moral life, according to, for example, Aristotle. Actually, following Aristotle has said that there is a threshold. It is not that we want people in the name of total happiness, and I'm not actually following the principle of transitivity here. There is a threshold, and that is basic needs. So, if future people can ensure their basic needs through developing capacities, then we can actually accept that possible word number 2 or B. So the first criticism of Carter is not acceptable. It's a misrepresentation of Atfield's view. I have no time. And Atfield has added to that, well, if you want more people with extreme happiness, that is also should be taken in a qualified sense. If you want more people to add to this, in that case, if it has adverse implication on other creatures of this planet, then try for another planet. And you send them there, but not at the cost of other creatures. So, Atfield keeps himself to the line, and he is working down the line to maintain that what is criticized by Carter is not acceptable. So, another important point is that what is the generic limitation of Atfield's view as a monist theory? Atfield explains that no, my theory is not a simple monistic view. What is the problem with monistic view? It just focuses on single value. And when you make a decision, we have a number of values that we take into consideration and which is quite intuitive. Now, Atfield is replying. In replying to Carter's criticism of his theory as a promoter of a single value, Atfield explicitly states that, quote, biocentric consequentialism incorporates a rather elaborate account of priorities among values, and later relates values such as justice to the balance of value over disvalue that this theory of priorities seeks to optimize. So it is not only autonomy that has been explained by Carter as a criticism against Ethel. Ethel said, besides autonomy, we have lots of other values. And this could be like the development of capacity, value of health, workable life, justice, and so forth. So it is not single value, there is an autonomy on which Ethel has focused much on. So this is also a misconception of Carter against Ethel. And finally, I should say, what is then the characteristic feature of monistic view of Ethel? It is not a simple monistic view. So what is that? It is a plurality of value that Ethel actually take into consideration that makes his theory actually pluralist. Again, his theory is monistic in the sense that it works on a consequentialist wise view to the overall balance of value over disvalue. So it is a combination of both monistic and pluralistic view. So Carter's criticism is not acceptable in that sense. Now, should we take, or can we take Ethel's view as a guideline for people who use normative ethical theory? I have 3 points here. You see, first of all, we have observed that Ethel's view can cope well with some infamous problem, namely the non-identity problem and the repugnant conclusion. So, by introducing basic needs threshold, as we have observed earlier, Ethel has managed to face criticism raised by Carter. Number 2, through recognizing multiplicity of value, this theory seems to have plausibly managed to overcome the excessive simplicity of a monistic view. And finally, through endorsing a value-based rationale for choice between recognized values, so Ethel seems to enjoy the advantage of relative simplicity. I'm sorry I'm taking time than I was allocated, but to have a sense of it, I have taken it, so forgive me. And third point is significant in the sense, just 1 minute. Third point is significant in the sense, radical pluralist view cannot actually adjudicate conflicts between values. So, a moderate pluralistic view, as we have observed that Ethel claims his view is, can address this issue. So we have a list of values in the first place, then we can strike a balance between the importance or among the values in terms of their importance. So we are actually walking down through 2 paths at a time. One is pluralistic, the other one is monistic. Consequentialist-wise decision-making threshold is a meta-principle that is Ethel is maintaining, that makes his view monistic. Again, he has a list of values that he wants to consider. There is not only autonomy, it includes also in the list development of health and well-being, justice, and whatnot. So, activist view could be taken as a guideline, those who actually try to use normative ethical theory. And I think country like Bangladesh or developing country, they can consider this view. They can actually try to follow this view to strike a balance between their development needs and environmental limits. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We will go to the third presenter. Okay. The topic is on narrative curriculum design. Estelal Lu.
Thanks for committee and thanks for chair and good afternoon everyone. I'm Estella Lu. I'm from Taiwan. The topic of my presentation is approach cross-cultural understandings through narrative curriculum design. And there are 4 points of the research questions. The first, why are self-reflections and mutual benefits important in service learning curriculum designs? And the second, how interactive relations have been established by the narrative identity-oriented oral history approach? And the third, what students have been led to deeply understand local cultural capably facilitate interpersonal interactions and effectively nurture competencies in respecting others through introducing narrative identity-oriented oral history into service learning curriculums. And the last one, will new cultural identities be emerging as benefits of meditating such kind of oral history approach into service learning curriculum. And so this research will first explore the way in which narrative identity-oriented oral history could be effectively mediating approaches in service learning curriculum designed to reach significant outcomes. And it will then verify the hypothesis that such effectiveness is in fact established through multi-layer interactive communications among all participants with relative ethical competencies through their own mutual supporting cross-cultural understandings as well as reflective and empathetic collaborations. So we use service learning curriculums for case studies. This research explores the changing process of students in taking narrative identity-oriented oral history approaches. The ways of students knowing tribal cultures with cross-cultural oral history approaches will be inquired into. Ethical relations between narrators and listeners will be further taken into account in analysis. And this is the curriculum design. And the curriculum design includes 2 parts. And the one part is service learning. And the service learning includes participatory learning services as the action model. Provide community orientation and opportunities to experience tribal cultures like tribal environment, traditional skills, tribal kitchen, and so on. And knowing organizations, structures, and division labors in community with action learning experience the diversities and richness of community works. And learning activities and fulfillments from lectures provided by community actionists in order to enhance students' participatory motivations. And this is the oral history, and the oral history includes learn to listen, skills for respecting to and interacting with others, understand tribal landscape, and humanistic action through local narrators. Life experience approaches in knowing individual features, learning ecosystem between tribes and environments, as well as improving bioethical literacy. And this is the learning journey of students. The ways students learn tribal cultures and change their attitudes. And before field study, the student says that visit tribes with tourist minds. And after first oral history taking, the students mentioned that I'm terrified by those stereotypes deeply inside my mind. While I realize other students' interview achievements and processes, I do reflect on my attitudes as ignorance as a blind tourist. And after the second oral history taking, the student says that while we are interviewing persons, we first have to focus fully on his person. Listening carefully is then essential. Finally, we have to be polite in following narrators without interruptions and keep narrators' consent in mind. And the cross-cultural participations between students and narrators shape the dynamic changes in listening and speaking. They have two times of interview, and after post-interview reflection, students have learned the importance in maintaining the trust relations during the interview, and appropriate positive feedbacks are effective. As a result, even secrets may come out. And students move from passive knower to active learner due to their attitude changes through reflections. So this student says that, in fact, they are not really the persons need help. We should not play the helper role to a fight. We have to open our mind and to learn from their wisdoms, to listen their stories, and to learn their cultures. And so this is the process of learning journey. In the beginning of semester, the students' ideas is about choose mind, stereotype recognition, personal preference. And in the middle semester, the oral history equals cross-cultural linkage, reflective communication, respectful interaction. And the service learning part includes spiritual sensitivities, cultural heritage awareness, interactive ethical considerations. And at the end of the semester, the students change their mind, their feelings, and their ideas. The concepts about learning nature, explore life's attitude change, and so on. And so this is the result. The reflections and beneficence are evident as most essential in students' learning processes where they are taking narrative identity-oriented oral history approaches. Along the process of establishing narrative understanding capacities, these students are nurturing their own ethical competencies through exploring narratives, meanings, and even events as a new sense of reconfiguring subjectivities, beginning with listening to life stories. And such individual narratives are situating interactivity into the context as different time and place. And ethical competencies are maturing along with knowledge pursuit, inquiry, and asking with reflection activities in learning environments. In so doing, the goal of service learning curriculum design could be attained. So we have the major findings. The first one is using oral history. We could facilitate cross-cultural linkages, enhance reflective communications, and advance respectful interactions. The second, mediating through oral history practices, we are able to deepen community participation, establish experiential sensitivities, enhance cultural heritage awareness, and facilitate interactive ethical relations. And the third, by integrating oral history into service learning curriculums, we find it is helpful in maturing students' sensitivity, competencies, and enhance their humanistic literacy. So this is the conclusion. Through learning by doing, the effectiveness of service learning curriculum designs in Taiwan is similar to those progressive educational reform trends in Western countries since 1960. And such curriculum designs shed new light to teaching cross-cultural subjectivities and ethical reflections. And so the research, this research is about the cultural boundaries and cultural interaction and cultural learning and cultural identity. And so thanks for your attention.
Thank you very much, Stella, for your nice presentation. I think that Stella has presented very good survey research on the basis of learning by doing approach, and she has presented the process on the understanding of narrative curriculum design, and she explored the way of nature of identity and used some non-parametric samples, and she has tested the hypothesis in non-parametric way, and she has presented the result in the right way. So we'll discuss on this paper later. And from the beginning, from the first paper, I'd like to say some things on that was presented by Professor Dujan Sai. He presented the narrative ethics matters, and its objectives was the objectives of the paper was to argue the importance of narrative ethics, and he also explained the history and theory of narrative ethics. We know that narrative ethics is an approach that focuses on personal identity through story and particular events in the life story of individual or community. So this form a basis for ethical reflection and learning for individual or groups. In many respects, it resembles to presupposes virtue ethics, I think. And we know that virtue ethics are normative ethical theories which emphasizes virtues of mind, character, and sense of honesty. Virtue ethics discusses the nature and the definitions of virtues and other related problems which focuses on the consequences of action. These include how virtues are acquired and how they are applied. So maybe We had a good discussion on that paper from the audience. And second one was presented by Professor Kamrul Hassan, rightly presented and very fluently presented on very difficult matter, that is the theory of conceptualization of biocentric things, and recognizes the moral standard of all living creatures and not of humanity. We usually think that man or humankind has the moral entity only. But here, from the theory, we came to know that that is not solely for the humanity only. That can be for all sort of living things or biotic things. So maybe from the floor there will be some questions. And third one was presented by Estella Lu. I will tell about her. And my question is, just first of all, I want to say one thing. That is, where is Stella? Mrs. Stella? So did you go through any sample survey or any purposive survey? Just purposely you have taken the samples, or you have maintained some sampling theories or sampling formula? Did you? Have you used any formula to pick the sample from your universe? Is it? Okay. So in that case, I think it's non-parametric. It is based on a non-parametric test. If so, and then at the end you want to say that it is a learning by doing process. So that is a problem, I think. So maybe you have to consider. Okay. So now the floor is open for all.
Yeah.
Okay, please raise your hand and ask the questions.
I wanted to ask some questions about Professor Sai. So because I want to know whether the public hospitals and private healthcare hospitals, those who are what they call Ayurvedic, Siddha, that is local doctors, and they are giving local medicines. They are doing both private healthcare, they are doing so much. But public healthcare means people who are working in companies, they are working in somewhere, they have to pay money. And only if they pay money, only if they get the money, they will give treatment to the people. Otherwise, they will not give treatment. I think it is the same thing in most of the countries. Even in America, I think there we made a speech that private healthcare is more popular in India, and it will be there in America also. Public healthcare will be definitely different. So I would like to know what you want to say.
May I have your attention, please? The presenters, may I have the attention of the presenters? Can you please come on stage? That would be more convenient. The presenters. Yeah, all the three presenters who just present. Yeah, that would be more convenient.
Can I follow? Okay, I represent from Taiwan, and I have a question to DJ Tai. We know each other for decades, and my question is, I know he spent a lot of time he spent a lot of time for collaborative study project among the Southeast Asian country. And my question is, what is the most difficult part for the collaborative studies? He didn't listen to me.
He can listen to you.
My goodness.
But to function the process can do anything.
So how are you going to answer my question?
Can you please raise your question all over again?
What I'm going to do?
This conference is crazy. I think we can answer for him.
Okay, thank you very much. And, well, anyone can answer me.
I answer?
Teacher, your answer? Yeah, please.
Okay, yeah. Okay, yes. I say that, thank you, Vincent. You asked a very important question. I say that the most important issue in collaboration is the trust relationship. I think that the trust relationship is our essential part for any kind of human interaction and also the purpose of bioethics engagement as well. So I think that this, the answer to your question will lead to the first question, which is really, really important. I think that to distinguish the public and the private hospital, especially the duty of the health professional working inside is really, really essential. But I think that in the past, we think that for all people working in public hospitals should serve as just based upon altruism, so you shouldn't have any relation with private sector. And secondly, I think that the more radical move or shift in Taiwan healthcare system is that after universal health insurance, all prices are regulated by the state, and there's no additional money allowed you to collect through out-of-pocket service, except permitted by the state. So I think that this is really strong program in Taiwan in the sense of strong state intervention or regulation. But I think that while I learned that the people in Mainland, they're in public hospital, they can offer out-of-pocket service as well. They are private high-end center affiliated with a public hospital. And also I learned from my friend in China. And some leading physicians or even public officers, they can have 1 or 2 days off or during the weekend. They can provide their service in very expensive private sector. And afterward, they commit themselves to as a really good public officer. And this system helps the public system save a very good talented people inside. But in Taiwan, I think that even superintendent quit from the public hospital. So I think this is really a contrast. So what I'm thinking is that the distinction between public and private is not really essential. The most essential part is there any possibility we could nurture the trust of our healthcare system to the people and let people believe this system and the medical profession are for the people, of the people, and by the people. I think the distinction between private and the public should not be too strict, in the sense that if we have trust, we would like to support our medical professionals in certain way. So that will be far more important in the bioethics. Any additional comments?
Thank you very much, dear presenter. Excellent presentation. Just one quick question to Professor side. You have been, in your presentation mentioned about the shared action model.
Okay.
And also living lab. Could you please living lab?
Okay.
Could you please tell a little bit about that?
Okay. I think that the living lab is idea comes from the MIT. Because each time in the industry, they always have product design and go into mass production, and afterwards see how market responds to the product. If the market did not respond well, then the product's failure and you produce not really product, you produce tons of waste. So the idea of the living lab is to address the situation. First, they want to drive the user-led innovation. The user innovation becomes important part that industry can form a partnership with the user, and any kind of human relation, consumer relation will get instant feedback from the consumer.
and also treat the consumer as a participant, as a designer in the process. So that's the original idea. And secondly, in medical field, I lead since we call it information national policy. We see all context or environmental institution apply smart technology. Should be patient-oriented, should be consumer-oriented, especially in the medical field. We first propose patient-centered approach in the sense that the patient should have a right to make decisions with you. And then while we use the smart technology, we think that the digital content get from the quality of life is somehow more important than what you have done in medical setting, especially in critical medical setting. So in that sense, we encourage the patient with the support from smart technology that we can establish long-term relationship. So medical team can always follow the patient for a long time. But at the same time, we find that it's really difficult because it's a waste time. But however, when we find the patient uses smart technology and they begin to think and they feel that we take seriously about what they feedback to us, then they organize, become a group, and automatically help us to collect data and to provide valuable suggestions and feedback to medical team. So along the line, we find that each doctor, nurses, even occupation therapists, they become a coordinator, really doer, service provider, are disseminated into the patient and their family and their supporting group network, not only services or many as a consultant. And also, the more important that we move from consultant to be a coordinator because their feedback is much more important in our view to improve our own work. So along the line, we created the idea, share the share action model. We recognize the dual subjectivity on the patient side, on the patient group side. So that's the idea behind the scene.
Okay, I think all questions goes to society, but I like to thank all the presenters for their nice presentation. But I have a small and short question to Professor Dr. Kamala-san. As you say, extreme happiness, moderate happiness, and happiness. Can you demarcate these three? Please, answer please.
Okay, in different few things. Pleasure is measurable. Otherwise, you can't actually order your choice. Especially Bentham's version of utilitarianism says is hedonistic calculus. We have 7-point hedonistic calculus by which we can measure happiness of A compared to happiness of B. It is actually not happiness. According to Bentham, that is pleasure. So there is a difference between pleasure and happiness. Pleasure means pleasure of my body, and we have pleasure of mind. So happiness covers both pleasure of body and pleasure of mind. But pleasure of mind cannot be measured. In that case, when you use happiness and pleasure, you should be a bit careful. And there is a complaint against Bentham on the part of Mill that we cannot actually measure happiness. So we have to distinguish between pleasure of body and pleasure of mind. So, well, very traditional utilitarians, they think it is measurable and cardinal ordering is possible. But those who think pleasure is actually also, it has a qualitative part, which is pleasure of mind, that is not actually measurable. In that case, we can order our choice. I can prefer more mango than banana. So it's not cardinal ordering of choice. It is ordinal order of choice. So we can always actually compare it, but not in terms of number that has been suggested by enter. First question.
I would like to ask one more question. I think that there should not be given any option of taking question now because we are
Running behind time.
running behind very shortage of time. So I like to request the chairpersons to conclude the session in a very few minutes, on a short time.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. I would like to thank all the presenters for a very lively session. Although, as I mentioned earlier, before the session begins, it will be a very daunting task to give 100% concentration after lunch. So I have nothing else to add. My colleague here have done the review of the three presenters. With that, I would like to conclude the session and thank you all the presenters.
Now I would like to request the volunteers to present the mementos to the honorable chairs of the session.
They may say that there is a weak communism there and all there is also liberalism there, that there is a narrative curriculum.